All right.
That's right.
Good job. Good to see you, Brian.
All right, good to see you, Sean. Good luck.
And welcome to, good luck. I need it. Welcome to Hannity. We've been telling you now how the media lies on a daily basis about all things Trump. And by the way, again, yes, your mainstream corrupt, destroy Trump media caught red-handed, this time pushing phony moral outrage, again caught lying to you, the American people. Now, this weekend, they actually repackaged an old story, really old, over a year old, about Donald Trump Jr.'s 2016 meeting with a Russian lawyer in Trump Tower. They literally this weekend tried to pass it off as a major news scandal. And by the way, in moments, we're going to prove it to you. We'll call out the fake crisis peddlers that are the so-called news media in this country. And by the way, on the left, they all seemingly want this president to fail. That's sad at all costs because they want Democrats back in power. Also, we have more information surrounding the New York Times newest hire, so-called journalist, so-called paper of record, long history of making despicable, disgusting comments, racist comments against people because of race, men, and F the police. We'll explain. And also, we have one more shocking example of conservatives now being targeted by far-left agitators, and we'll address the situation out of Chicago. 71 people shot this weekend alone, 12 dead, and dozens more fighting for their lives. Rahm, where the hell are you? Obama, you had 8 years. Why did you not fix this? And finally, the U.S. just reissued very tough sanctions, finally, against the regime in Iran. It is the latest important move by the president and his strategy. It's called Peace Through Strength, and it works. All right, we've got a lot to get into tonight. Our breaking news opening monologue begins now. So in just a little over a year and a half, Donald Trump has got our economy revving up. It's now booming. The U.S. is more secure. The president's policies, thankfully, for the sake of the people of this country, are working. But the left, Democrats, the mainstream, destroyed Trump media, they could care less. Instead, they all seemingly, because they want power back in the hands of Nancy Pelosi and company, want the president to fail. Well, if he fails, we fail. And they have abused their trust with you, the American people. In fact, the president's success is sending them over the edge. Now, it's why they push these phony moral outrage, feign outrage every second of every minute of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year now. And of course, it's kind of hard to stir up a new crisis every single day. So this weekend, well, they kind of turned their bag of tricks and said, oh, we don't have any more bad news. Let's make it up. And they just recycled, literally recycled, start to finish, a story that's more than a year old. Now, the fake outrage centered around this recent tweet from the president, quote, fake news reporting a complete fabrication. And I'm concerned about the meeting that my wonderful son, Don Jr., had in Trump Tower. This was a meeting to get information on an opponent, which is totally legal and done every day, all the time in politics, and it went nowhere. I didn't know about it. Now, we all know that tweet from the president is not in any way, shape, manner, or form anything different than what he said over a year ago. It's not a new, stunning admission. Literally, we have known about the political nature of, quote, the Trump Tower meeting for over a year. It ended up being a meeting about adoption. We know Donald Trump Jr. was told, oh, they might have information on Hillary. In fact, President Trump tweeted as much way back over a year ago, July 2017, if any of these sheep in the media would ever do any work, they're lazy, they're overpaid. Most politicians, he tweeted over a year ago, would have gone to a meeting ended in order to get info on an opponent. That's politics. And in September of 2017, the New York Times reported, quote, Donald Trump Jr. told Senate investigators that he set up a June 2016 meeting with a Russian lawyer because he was intrigued that she might have damaging information about Hillary Clinton. And sadly, in an effort to malign President Trump, well, your friends, well, not really, in the mainstream media, they forgot even their own reporting. Their own reporting. That's how bad they are. That's how desperate they are to get the Democrats back in power in 92 days. For example, one New York Times correspondent tweeted, what an astonishing, brazen admission after more than a year of denials by the president and his staff. Huffington Post, they ran with the headline, quote, Trump finally admits his campaign colluded with Russia at Trump Tower meeting. The AP reports, quote, Trump appears to change story on meeting with Russian lawyer. Now, naturally, the feigned moral outrage of the day was even worse on your fake, phony networks and so-called news competitors of ours, which they're not. Take a look.
Everything you heard from every White House representative there was a lie.
And not only was it a conspiracy to defraud, he's aiding and abetting in the undermining in interesting sorts of ways of our democratic society.
Our reporting, despite what the president tweeted in response to it, very much is that he's worried about Don Jr. He's expressed that worry to the people that he's been talking to on the phone. He's been privately brooding over this.
If he says he knew about the meeting, that almost certainly means Donald Jr. lied in front of Congress, and I think that would almost certainly mean that Donald Jr. would get indicted.
On a random Sunday morning tweet, does it? An admission of lying, and something that at least starts to fit the dictionary, if not legal definition, of collusion.
It's starting to, like as if it's starting. It continues to make your hair hurt trying to follow it all.
And then there's the next level, which is Michael Cohen says, well, the president knew. So the president says, I didn't know. Does that add another level to the conspiracy?
It's like a competition. Dumb, dumber, dumbest. They're all in the same category. This treatment by this media to this president, duly elected by you, the American people, is beyond disgusting. And meanwhile, you have known leaker and liar Congressman Adam Schiff joining his friends in the mainstream media. Oh, we've got a great tape we're going to play for you in a second. Also weighing in with fake, feigned moral outrage of his own. By the way, he got nailed on CBS. He doesn't have any evidence. None. 18 months in. None. Zero. Zip. Take a look.
Can you agree that there has been no evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy that has been presented thus far between the Trump campaign and Russia?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight.
Where is it? We've been looking for a long time. We do have evidence of collusion, though. Russian collusion in plain sight. All right, let's look at Schiff. He could easily be talking about himself. Remember when he tried to dig up dirt on President Trump from his own Russian sources? It turns out he was being pranked by a Russian radio personality. He thought he was talking with the Russians, a conspiracy, a collusion with the Russians. And we actually, Mr. Mueller, we have evidence. Listen to this.
He was in Moscow in November 2013. He met with a journalist and...
Well, she's poor journalist, but anyway, she became famous because of Putin is her godfather.
Okay, Putin's godfather. Okay.
She also known as a person who provides girls for escort for oligarchs, and she met with Trump and she brought him our Russian girl, celebrity, Olga Buzova, who also known as a person with a strange reputation.
Olga, and how do you spell her name?
Olga Buzova.
And what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. We will be back in touch with you through our staff to make arrangements to obtain these materials for our committee and for the FBI, and I appreciate you reaching out to us.
Collusion, conspiracy, Russians, tape, proof. Where's the media outrage over the attempt to collude and conspire with Russia? Or is it only a crime if a Republican is trying to dig up political dirt and op research on an opponent? This time we have the tape of the whole thing. Imagine if we had the tape of the meeting in Trump Towers. That was about Russian adoption. As you can see, how corrupt your media is, and just so happy to rehash an old phony scandal. Literally a dead-end meeting about adoption with a Russian attorney who happened to meet with Fusion GPS before and after the meeting, sidebar, but couldn't care less about, oh, we have another case of collusion with evidence. The Clinton campaign funneling money through a law firm, the DNC funneling money through a law firm to hire a foreign spy, to dig up what came out to be Russian lies, propaganda, debunked lies about President Trump, and then fed it to you, the American people, to steal an election. Oh, and it became the bulk of the information in a FISA warrant that was used 4 times to spy on an American citizen who's part of the opposition party campaign in an election year. Now, we're talking about Christopher Steele, Hillary Clinton's dirty dossier with Russian lies, bought and paid for by the Clintons, the Democrats, to purposefully lie to you, the American people. Why? Because they didn't care what they said, how many lies they told, because they wanted to steal an election, and they still lost with totally absurd, untrue claims from Russia, like this one. Trump's, quote, perverted conduct in Moscow included hiring the presidential suite in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, where he knew President and Mrs. Obama had stayed on one of their official trips to Russia, and defiling the bed where they had slept by employing a number of prostitutes to perform golden showers. In other words, urinating on the bed, and a show in front of him. Okay. In an interrogatory in Great Britain, when the threat of perjury was put to Christopher Steele, he did say the following: oh, that was just raw intelligence. I don't know if that's true at all. 50-50. Where's the media outrage? That was used to get a warrant to spy on Americans. Where's the outrage against the Clinton campaign? Literally paying for lies to lie to you, the American people. Literally to rig an election that obviously used paid-for Russian lies. That sounds like collusion and a conspiracy to me. And still, the media wonders why the American people don't trust them. They wonder why you shout, "You suck." You know why? Because they do suck. They have a political agenda. They're politically driven. They hate this president and at all costs have been trying, continue to try to destroy him, his kids, his sons, his daughter, his 12-year-old kid, his wife, and literally anybody that's friends with them. Do any of these people in the media that lied again and got caught again, do they ever care how much better off this country is doing? 14 states, record low unemployment, Hispanic Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans. Oh, and our brave vets that are out now getting in the workplace. Millions fewer on food stamps, 4 million new jobs, more manufacturing jobs that Obama told us was never coming back. Now, tonight also, we have another blow to their credibility. This one comes to us care of the New York Times. There, right there, meet the newest member of the newspaper's editorial board. Her name is Sarah Zhang. Now, for years, she tweeted dozens of statements about race and white people. She used the hashtag cancel white people. She openly wondered if white people were only fit to live underground, like groveling goblins. She tweeted that she gets, quote, joy out of being cruel to old white men. She also trashed all men. Oh, and the police, frequently writing F the police. And of course, she has also expressed her hatred for President Trump. Shocking. She works at the New York Times. Quote, I was equating Trump to Hitler before it was cool. There are literally dozens of other racist, sexist, generally offensive tweets. The New York Times doesn't care. They know about this. They still hired her and are rigorously now defending their decision to hire her. Now, I know some of you will be angry. On this program, we never call for boycotts. We never say that people should be fired or lose their jobs. I'm not going to start tonight. I'm going to be consistent because it's always conservatives that they really want fired. But the New York Times, the paper of record, this is disgusting beyond words. Now, you, the American people, the American consumers, you always have the power not to read it, to turn the dial, not read the newspaper or whatever else they put out. But this hire reveals yet another example of what is a blatant, corrupt, double standard in the Destroy Trump media. The New York Times so frequently peddles identity politics. They totally gloss over stories. In some cases, if it doesn't fit their political agenda, they always want to target the president and target conservatives and target Republicans. Where are all these groups, by the way, that are literally paid millions and millions and millions of dollars a year to monitor conservatives on talk radio, Rush, Mark, me, Laura, anybody on the Fox News channel that gives opinion, labeled opinion, for boycotts and firings. They're silent tonight because they're hypocrites too. Now, to prove this point, a friend of this program, conservative activist Candace Owens, she tweeted verbatim the exact same tweets from the New York Times new hire, but switched out the word white for another race. Now, Candace Owens was promptly banned from Twitter. And after much outcry, her account was reinstated. They figured out that she was making a point, and Twitter apologized for, quote, the error. And it brings us to our next story, and it involves yet another scary example of the left's so-called resistance to Trump allies all over the country. The very person who was banned and then unbanned from Twitter, Candace Owens, her colleague, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, they're actually just eating breakfast in Philadelphia, kind of like Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen, and Sarah Sanders. Then an angry mob of far-left protesters literally ran them out of the restaurant and needed police assistance. Watch this. They were assaulted. They will both join us later in the program tonight for an exclusive interview, and we'll show you everything that went down. The left-wing intolerance is so out of control, and I have a warning. It's only going to get worse as the most important midterms in our lifetime in 92 days gets closer and closer. And meanwhile, one local Democrat in Chicago is putting politics aside, desperately, rightly, trying to rescue his city from what has been a wave of violence that has been devastating his hometown since Obama began his presidency. Watch this.
I represent a community on the west side that the government allows drugs and gangs to dominate those communities where senior citizens and children are hostage. They're held hostage in their homes. They're held hostage in their community, and they can't enjoy the liberties that are afforded to them by everyone else, and that's unacceptable. Yeah. And we need the president's help in Chicago. The mayor, he must take away the thought that Chicago is a Trump-free zone, because taxpayers deserve to have the president come in and bring resources to the community. We need to make sure that the billions of dollars that we send to Washington comes back, and the mayor should be working closely with Trump.
This has to be a tipping point. Our national treasure, our children, over 70 shot, 12 killed, dozens others fighting for their lives, a city with a gang violence epidemic that seems never ending. Where's Rambo Deadfish? He can't curtail violent crime. If he can't do it, step aside, or at the very least, ask for help from the president. Talk to Rudy Giuliani. He fixed New York City. Lives of our children are at stake here. Law-abiding citizens are held hostage and getting killed. We've got to stop it. I do hope the president sees what's happening and is able to step in and help the city of Chicago and help save some lives. We'll monitor that and give you updates as the situation unfolds. But first, we got to turn to the Middle East. The president's strategy of peace through strength, that is in full swing. Iran is now being held accountable, thankfully. Now, the president today announcing that the tough pre-nuclear deal sanctions finally will be reinstated against this rogue regime that chants death to America. Now, these sanctions effectively prevent many international companies from conducting business with Iran, and it is not likely to be lifted unless the mullahs of Iran halt their aggressive, hostile actions, funding proxy wars, and being the #1 funding country of global terrorism. And, of course, end their pursuit of nuclear weapons and the constant threats to the United States and to Israel. All right, a lot of news tonight. We still have a lot to get to. Joining us now with reaction, the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax and the Illicit Scheme to Clear Hillary Clinton and Frame Donald Trump, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and the author of Why We Fight, Fox News national security strategist Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, let me start with you. Let's start with the big latest lie of the media. They all went with it. They never did their research, and they all basically, like sheep, follow each other.
It's remarkable, Sean. It shows you how they have nothing. Let's be very clear. Hopefully they're taking notes. There is no crime to meet with a foreign national to obtain opposition research. especially when it turns out that that individual took that meeting under false pretenses. However, it is a crime to engage somebody at the cost of millions of dollars who is not a foreign registered agent, but at the same time is a former intelligence officer, that's Christopher Steele, and to use his Russian propaganda material as the grounds for a surveillance warrant in a FISA court. Greg can give you all the chapters, all the code, but that is a crime. For the last 430 days, we have had zero evidence, Sean, connecting the president to Russia. And I'm going to say now on the record, they will never find any because there isn't any.
Well, they haven't. And the fact is, I played the tape of Shiftless Schiff. It's very hard to say on TV. It's a very risky move. But in all seriousness, Greg, okay, he's talking to a Russian. He's getting op research that he hopes will kill off the president politically. And then we got Hillary's phony dossier. The media ignores it all, Greg. This is beyond corrupt. And they'll destroy the president and his family in the process with no compunction whatsoever.
There's no fairness and equivalency. I was amazed today when the New York Times, in their front page story, declared, without any evidence, without citing any statute, that it was illegal, that Trump Tower meeting. Well, I'll cite the law. The Federal Campaign Election Act specifically says a foreign national may volunteer services, attend meetings, and provide information. It is not, and never has been, considered a thing of value under our election laws. What is a thing of value is paying a foreigner, as Hillary Clinton did, for information on Donald Trump.
By the way, didn't we learn the FBI also paid him, which we suspected, now we know?
That's right. And the payment by Hillary establishes it as a thing of value, making it illegal. And yes, as we learned last Friday, Judicial Watch, through a lawsuit, obtained documents from the Department of Justice and the FBI, which shows that Christopher Steele was not only on the payroll of Hillary Clinton, but for 7 months before the Trump-Russia case was officially launched, he was on the FBI's payroll receiving 11 payments.
Last word, Dr. Gorka.
And Sean, you mentioned one thing that needs to be repeated. Veselnitskaya, this private lawyer, was briefed by Fusion GPS before and after the meeting in Trump Tower, so this could have been a setup from the get-go.
All right. Thank you both. Important. A live report. We have other breaking news, the Manafort trial and more, and House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes, and yes, Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. All right, today, day 5 of the trial of the century. Paul Manafort's 2005 tax case that has nothing to do with Russia, nothing to do with collusion, nothing to do with the campaign, nothing to do with Donald Trump. And there's special counsel Robert Mueller's star witness, Rick Gates, took to the stand to testify against Paul Manafort. The only problem is he admits to being a criminal. He admits to lying, stealing. Anything else? Live from the White House. Where are you tonight? And yeah, you're outside the White House. I've grown. Ed Henry, you're there alone because the president's not there, I don't think.
That's right, Sean. He's in New Jersey. But you're right that this was kind of a tough day for special counsel Robert Mueller and his team in court today, because remember, Judge T.S. Ellis back in May had said that the special counsel, he believed, really didn't care about Paul Manafort and the bank fraud and tax evasion charges, that instead he just wanted to get the president, try to get dirt from Manafort to either impeach or prosecute the president. Well, Judge Ellis at it again late today, lashing out at one of Mueller's prosecutors, Greg Andrews, for going on and on about Manafort's connections to Ukrainian politicians that have nothing to do with the president or the crux of the bank fraud and tax charges against Manafort. Judge Ellis growing furious when Andrews would not look up at the judge while he was speaking. The prosecutor claiming he was looking at documents. The judge declared, quote, "Look at me, don't look down. You look down as if to say that's BS. I'm up here." So the judge not happy. Interesting, because Ellis warned back in May that what the special counsel might be trying to do is not just get Manafort to sing, but get him to compose, meaning come up, either Manafort or other witnesses come up with stuff that may or may not be true. As you mentioned, Rick Gates, the star witness testifying today, he admitted to crimes that he committed. Let's remember that he is somebody who has admitted to lying to federal investigators, so he has a credibility question. And again, none of this gets at alleged Russian collusion, a new frenzy that was whipped up this weekend because of that tweet you mentioned at the top of the show, the president saying that the focus of that Trump Tower meeting in the summer of 2016 was not about Russian adoption. It was about getting dirt on Hillary Clinton. The problem is the president already mentioned that at a news conference last summer with the French president.
And
so it's
Don
not really
Jr.
new.
mentioned it when he testified, and that was reported. Let me ask you a question. So he admitted to lying. He admitted to embezzling.
Rick Gates, yeah.
Did he admit? What's the deal? Does he get a get out of jail free card just to say whatever he wants to say against his former partner? Even though he
remember, he pled guilty
things?
to lying to federal investigators. So that's going to be a big problem for him when there's cross-examination from Manafort's side, which is which story are we to believe? You told federal investigators one thing. Now you're telling the court a whole other thing.
Didn't he get a deal?
So his credibility.
He
Well,
got
he
a
has a
deal.
deal, yeah.
Is that the same as like
Absolutely,
paying
that's
somebody
why.
for testimony? If you say this, we'll give you no jail time or something?
Yeah, he's already gotten a deal. He already pled, and he's cooperating with the special counsel. That's why he is their quote-unquote star witness. The question is going to be whether his credibility is believed. And again, nothing that Rick Gates is saying gets at to where this investigation started, which was collusion. This is about bank fraud, tax charges.
How is that different? Well, thank you. I won't drag you into my commentary, Ed Henry. Thank you. How's that different from Sammy the Bull? Sammy the Bull admits they know he killed 19 people. 19. No jail time, witness protection program, a new house, and a new life. Just tell us what. Is a murderer not going to say whatever you want? This is a process that is wrong. We'll deal with this in the future. Also today, Daily Caller, our own Sarah Carter, reporting the DOJ is refusing to preserve work-related emails from the former FBI director, Jim Comey's private account. Wow, I wonder if they do that for you or me. Now, we reached out to the DOJ for comment. They declined. Here with more reaction, House Intelligence Committee Chairman, California Congressman Devin Nunes, who frankly deserves the Medal of Freedom for really showing, sadly, the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal. Let's just get your general take on everything and where we are and what is important now.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks for having me on again. Where we're at, a lot of people ask, well, what's left? We still have information that we need from the Department of Justice. However, I will say, as of tonight, we are getting closer and closer to having the information that we need.
Tell us why.
One of the big issues that they have provided, they have allowed all the issues that were in our subpoena, they have now either we've been able to review, our investigators have been able to review, or they have been delivered to the committee in one form or fashion or another. So let's put that aside. There's still more that has to be done, and we're, of course, months and months late. So where are we? We talked about this last week. We have at least 20 pages of the FISA the FISA warrant that went after Carter Page. We have about 20 pages that the House Republicans have asked several months ago for the president and his office to declassify. We need that declassified. Senator Grassley, secondly, asked for the Bruce Orr 302s. Bruce Orr is going to become more and more important in this investigation.
Explain a 302 and were they altered? Explain a 302, which is an official report. So were they altered?
So the FBI interviewed Bruce Orr at least a dozen times and put together reports. So once they fired Steele, which at that point they should have not been meeting with him anymore, but what they had is they had Bruce Orr, whose wife Nellie Orr was working for Fusion GPS, was going to meet and still get the information from Christopher Steele as they were trying to verify this unverified dossier or the Clinton dirt that was used to get the FISA warrant. So that's number two. Number three, there is exculpatory evidence that we have seen of classified documents that need to be declassified. These were not, when I say
exculpatory in nature, in what way? I don't mean to press you. Exculpatory in what way?
In that the Carter Page FISA, when the judges should have been presented with this exculpatory evidence that the FBI and DOJ had. So those are the three areas that we have left in terms of what we need declassified.
I've been hearing rumors of on top of that, a tape and potentially Intel service involvement in all of this. Is there any truth to that?
Well, that I think gets to the origins of the investigation, which we still are unclear on whether or not we know that the Australian diplomat that was serving in London, we were told that it was Five Eyes intelligence that was used to go after Papadopoulos. What we discovered in our investigation is there was no Five Eyes intelligence, and in fact, Downer's story, the Australian diplomat, doesn't even make any sense. So we're still trying to follow up on that. But in the big picture here, we need these documents declassified. That has to get done.
Well, there was a report by,
Secondly, we have about
Paul Sperry that might happen. I'm running out of time, and I want to get this in. This is very important. I just played the tape, the April 2017 tape of your colleague, Adam Schiff. I won't add my commentary to your comments. And it sounds like he's colluding with Russians for dirt on Donald Trump. And wasn't the phony dossier that Hillary and the DNC paid for, wasn't that full of Russian lies? And it was used to misinform the American people. They got a FISA warrant, as your memo pointed out, and the Grassley-Graham memo pointed out, the bulk of information for the dossier for the FISA.
Yeah, well, look, if it would have been up to the Democrats, they were in on this from the beginning. So was the media, Sean. The media in 2016 had all this information, too. So they know that this information was being generated by the Clinton campaign. You had DOJ, FBI, all those cast of characters that were meeting regularly with Christopher Steele. You have Bruce Orr, the number 4 at the Department of Justice, who I think is going to become a more and more important figure in this. And a lot of the investigators and reporters should be looking closer at Bruce Orr.
Appreciate your time. This is soon, maybe this week. That's what rumors I'm hearing. Good to see you, sir. Keep up the good work. When we come back, the left targeting of conservatives continues. Despicable, disgusting. We're going to speak to victims this weekend. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, harassed. They were having breakfast in Philadelphia earlier today. This tape is so bad. We'll get to that. And Greg Gutfeld, straight ahead. Here this morning, friends of this program, Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, were brutally harassed by far-left protesters. They were having breakfast at a Philadelphia coffee shop. Watch this.
1, 2, 3. The bourgeoisie. 4, 5, 6. The bourgeoisie. 1, 2, 3. Big government.
It's now Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA Communications Director Candace Owens, both friends of the show. Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen, Sarah Sanders, Melania Trump, Ivanka Trump, a 12-year-old kid, Barron Trump, a 4-year-old granddaughter, Chloe Trump. This is, the media talks about them because they say you suck and they're worried. You actually got physically assaulted.
Correct, yeah. Water thrown on myself. They threw an egg at me. And here's the interesting part. Candace and I were just minding our own business. We were just having, a quiet breakfast. And they mobilized within 20 or 30 minutes, at least 50 of them, came into the restaurant, started calling Candace a Nazi, which I can't quite figure out how on earth they would come to that conclusion.
There were racial comments made too, right?
Absolutely.
What were they said? Tell everybody.
Not just to me, also to the police officers. This was a primarily black police force. This is Philadelphia. There was only one white police officer. The rest were black and Hispanic. They called us race traitors. They were saying F the police, and they were saying that all police are racist, despite the fact that this was an all-white group, Antifa, facing an all-black police force, and myself, telling us essentially that we had to go.
I did notice that you both kept your cool and you stayed out. You were not going to go back in. I would probably, if I was there, I would have stayed out because I'm a lunatic. But I would have advised you guys to go inside. But you felt it was important not to.
Well, they drove us out of the restaurant, and Candace and I said, you know what, let's just stand here for a couple minutes and show them that we're not going to back down. Very peacefully, we're not going to retaliate if things get thrown at us. Little did we know we actually have stuff thrown at us. But look, we don't want to play the victim card here. That's what the left does all the time. Instead,
not the victim card, but this is...
Use this as a warning. This is what's called on by Maxine Waters. That was our first mission.
Get in their face, get in their face in grocery stores, in the mall, if I remember correctly?
In restaurants, she said.
In restaurants.
Yeah, so this is Maxine Waters America, and we felt it was an important moment to show America exactly what we are fighting, because not many people understand this is real. They've grown increasingly violent because they understand that they are losing. They're losing a lot of turf.
Is this, when I first met you, I did say what Charlie said, because he thinks he discovered you. Okay, you didn't discover, she was a star on the making. I did say I saw a great future for both of you, to be fair. Has there been a lot of this?
When they're expecting us, yes. If we're on campuses, of course. If we're going to give us a talk anywhere, of course. But this was unusual because we weren't at a Trump rally. We weren't on a campus. We were simply having coffee in a coffee shop.
So sad.
Yeah.
You know, and Sarah Sanders' kids thrown out of a restaurant. You know, I don't talk about it. I know the left. I said last week, I'd be the first to jump in. If I'm at an event and anybody laid a hand on even Jim Acosta, I train an hour and a half a day mixed martial arts. I fight, and it's real fighting. And I would defend anybody against physical violence, but it's not the same if you're using words. Here, they actually chased you out of the restaurant, and you were physically really assaulted.
That's correct. And we made the decision not to press charges because, look, we're not going to try to do what the left would do and try to create martyrs, so on and so forth. Instead, what we want to do is focus on, as a warning sign to the American people, that if the Democrats take back Congress, you're going to be electing these radicals.
Well, those are the
to be
people
in charge
that want
of the
to
committees.
impeach the president.
That's correct.
They want open borders, eliminate ICE, keep Obamacare. They want their crumbs back, and they want these investigations to stop.
That's exactly right. And they had a bullhorn, and they were very close to my face, screaming in my ear. It was reminiscent of the civil rights era. This is what you would expect at the civil rights era if a black woman was dining at a restaurant.
You know, you've been through a lot, though. This is not the first time. It seems that race comes up a lot because you happen to be conservative and you happen to be an African American.
That's correct.
This is Deneen Borelli's book. Remember I mentioned it to you? Mm-hmm. You know, Google my name, and the most horrific names come up.
That's correct, because liberals believe that they own blacks still. They believe that there is something proprietary about being black in this country. And if you deviate from the way that they want you to think and the way that they want you to act, they grow violent.
And it's changing. Did you see the poll, Rasmussen?
I did.
You had predicted this to me.
I did. I said there's going to be a major black exit from the Democratic Party because we're starting to figure it out. We're looking at the history, which they've wiped, and we are realizing that the Democratic Party was always racist.
Record low unemployment, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, 14 states. That's good for our fellow citizens. And you know what else?
Americans.
It ought to be what happened in Chicago, just to dovetail. If we don't declare this a national emergency, that literally our American family is being gunned down in the streets and nobody's doing anything to help our national treasure.
Because they're not illegal aliens. If these were illegal alien children that were gunned down, illegal alien children that were separated because they lost their fathers.
Think of the outrage over that.
They would
71.
Be
but you know what? Nobody wants separation of children, and Donald Trump fixed that.
Correct.
But 71 people shot in a weekend.
Right.
And it went on all through the Obama years. What?
With the strictest gun laws in America.
No celebrities came out talking about this whatsoever, and it's because these were Americans.
You both are very brave and courageous. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for having
Greg Gutfeld, he's got a lot to say. Next. All right, here now is a good friend of the program, author of the brand new book. It's called The Gutfeld Monologues, Classic Rants from the Five. The host, Greg Gutfeld, and of course the hit show The Five. You know, when I first met you, you can shake my hand.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to.
No. Don't start.
I know. I can't.
You know, when I first met you, I was like, you were like a little quirky.
Yeah.
Then I realized how funny you are. Mm-hmm. You have a comedic mind.
Yeah, it was, but I didn't come from comedy. I was a magazine editor. I'd been editing Men's Health and Maxim, so I don't think anybody expected.
Oh, and then you edited Maxim.
Yes, in England. Yes,
okay.
It didn't last very long, but I still did it. And Stuff Magazine. So I don't think people expected that I was either political or that I had any other thoughts other than like primitive male instincts, and that I was weird. And I am. I'm happy to be weird.
No, but you did Red Eye, and the show kicked ass.
Yeah. 3 a.m. It was getting higher ratings than Morning Joe, whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
Yes.
Yeah, liberal Joe.
Yes.
And then I was, from the day one, I was always a fan of The Five. I thought the show was genius.
Yeah.
And then the ratings were astronomical.
Yeah.
You don't have in this business a hit show on day one. You guys had a hit show on day one.
Yeah, it was natural chemistry, and it was an improvisational conversation where everybody knew when somebody else was going to talk, because you know the problem with cable TV is
me and Alan Combs fought over time.
People start their sentence when you're in the middle of yours, but on the 5 we all just kind of sit and we go, we're going to get to say what we say, and we try to relax, and it's the perfect hour for television. You have a cocktail, we're on, and I did a book tour on Saturday. People think they know you because they do. You're in there.
Know you.
When they see you, they go, "You're in my living room every day. You say what I want to say." That's why Fox has a huge audience.
Right. So the monologue is a part of the show.
Yeah.
And I like that part of the show. You're very irreverent. You're very politically incorrect. A little unpredictable politically. But you know what? That's what makes the show so good, is that, you've got you, Dana, Jesse, everybody has a different everyone has a different point of view.
Yeah.
And it's just the back and forth is intelligent, smart, fun, funny conversation.
Yeah, the goal is to say something that hasn't been said already. And that's a challenge, because at 5 o'clock, you've already had 9 or 10 hours.
Welcome to 9 o'clock.
Yes, exactly. And so what I try to do, and this is my secret, I pretend I'm at a bar. Because generally when you're at a bar...
I've been to a bar with you, brother.
Yes, exactly.
Not easy to keep up in a bar with this guy.
I've pulled back a little bit. Nothing but red wine. But if you pretend that you're mildly drunk, which is what I do, you loosen the screws in your head and you actually come out with stuff that you haven't said before.
That's the mind of a comedian. So tell us about the book. You've taken the best of the monologues.
Yes. And what I did, which is what no one's done, if you look at this, I critique my own writing. So every one of these little blue things is like where I'm wrong. Yeah. I will say when I'm wrong. When I think I'm cliched, I will say that. And then I update stuff because a lot of these monologues were pre-2016, BT, before Trump. And so I'm trying to update what happened. Interesting. There's a huge section here on terror. We don't talk about terror that much anymore. Why? Because ISIS, I hope knock on glass, but it's changed.
Listen, I know you've had a great book tour so far. The book is in bookstores everywhere. Hannity.com, Amazon.com. Congrats on the success of this show. You're a great colleague. Great to see you. Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it.
All right, Rush Limbaugh sounds off on what the Democrats are really running on in 2018. His insight, his commentary next. All right, Rush Limbaugh, 30th anniversary, by the way. Congratulations again. Rush made an interesting observation today. Democrats, quote, their blue wave is not based on a single policy. Take a look.
If the Democrats win, what are we going to get? The Democrats are basing this blue wave on one thing, Trump hatred, the resistance. They're not basing it on people's desire for Democrat policies. Now, isn't that kind of flimsy? They think they live in a world where everybody now hates Trump. That's what they tell themselves. They live in a world where everybody now realizes the mistake they made voting for Trump. They live in a world where, in their view, everybody is embarrassed of Trump every day and wishes that they could take back their vote and will do so. But it isn't based on policy. No, it's based on Trump hatred.
All Trump hatred. All right, this show's always going to be fair and balanced. We have a lot coming up this week. Got a sneaky suspicion you're going to be tuning in. All right, thank you for being with us. We'll always be fair and balanced. We'll not destroy Trump media. Let not your heart be troubled. The news continues. Ingraham.